Hello, and thank you for joining me. My name is Mike Roberts, and welcome to this snippet from the Song of Solomon. This is our 12th snippet, and we're making our way verse by verse through the book of the Song of Solomon. And in this snippet, we're going to close out chapter 1. And so far in our study of chapter 1, we've heard from Solomon, who represents Jesus. We've heard from the Shulamite maid, who represents you and me, and she's his bride in this story. And we're seeing a pattern start to develop. We're seeing that she kind of does most of the talking. Now, Solomon does chime in. He always has loving, kind, and caring things to say, which again represents the heart of Jesus to you and me. But kind of like you and me, and the way it is in our relationship with Jesus oftentimes, is we do most of the talking. And so we've heard more from her than we have from him. But one thing about him, as we've heard from him, is we can see how consistent he is. We can see how loving and how unwavering he is in his expression of devotion to her, his expression of love to her. And there have been some ups and downs in the story already, and those have come from her, kind of like they come from us in our walk with the Lord. And in the last snippet, we heard from Solomon as he said to her, this is in verse 15, just a quick review, he said, "How beautiful you are, my darling, how beautiful you are." He says it twice. He just reaffirms to her twice his heart for her. Then he says, "Your eyes are like doves." And now picking up in verses 16 and 17, she responds to him. And again, this response is reflective of our heart to Jesus. And this is what she says to him. She says, "How handsome you are, my beloved, and so pleasant. Indeed, our couch is luxuriant. The beams of our houses are cedars, and our rafters are cypresses." And so she talks about how handsome he is and how pleasant he is to be around, how much she enjoys being around him, being in his presence, which of course is true of you and me as we're in the presence of Jesus. But then she begins to talk about their couch and their homes. Now, we saw in previous snippets and read in previous verses how when they were married, the king brought her into his chambers, which speaks of the most intimate place he could ever take her, and kind of talks of their honeymoon. So they were married, they become one. She goes with him into the most intimate place he could take her, and then they come out of there, and as we saw, she kind of has a little bit of an identity crisis. She kind of has an emotional bump in the road, but he lovingly reaffirms his heart to her. And now what we can see, they're still very much in love. They're expressing their love for each other, but she talks about their couch. Now, she's not mentioning the chambers right now. The chambers, again, are that intimate place where he can take her, the most intimate place they could ever go together. But now she's mentioning their couch, which I think is important. I think about a couch in terms of more everyday life. The chambers isn't every single day, but the couch is. And so I believe this is just talking about the fact that Jesus wants to be with us in every aspect, every facet of our lives. I would love to spend all day, every day in the chambers, just studying His Word and being in His presence and worshiping before Him and talking to Him and receiving from Him. And thankfully, He's always there, and we can do that. But also, there comes a time I have to go to work. There comes a time I have to do the dishes and things that I consider to be more mundane and oftentimes less enjoyable. But thankfully, He's right there with me. And she says, our couch is luxuriant. So she's not talking about the chambers. She's talking about the couch where they sit and talk after dinner, the couch where they watch movies together, and the couch where they hold their babies together. And so she's talking about the luxurious couch they have, but it's a place of everyday life. It's a place where Jesus manifests Himself to her in a way that's different from the way He does in the chambers. But it's still very important to her. And I believe it's indicative of the life that Jesus wants to live with us also, where in our everyday lives, going to work, going to school, coming home and making dinner and cleaning the dishes and doing laundry, all those things, raising the children, all those things are areas where He wants to be involved with us. So I believe the couch speaks of that. And then we can see that the beams of their homes are cedars and the rafters are cypresses. And I've got a background in construction, and to me that kind of speaks of a custom home. It's not just your standard lumber you'd buy at the lumber store, but these are nice pieces of wood that have come from other parts of the world even. And so she's looking up at their home that He has custom built for her. And I think it speaks of a life that we can experience with Jesus that we can never experience apart from Him. She would have had no resources to bring in that kind of lumber to build her personal home unless it came from Him, which again is just a special picture and token of the heart that Jesus has for us in our walk with Him, how He kind of customizes things for us. In His relationship with us, things aren't cookie cutter, but He makes things personal and makes things intimate. So